When you start any kind of project, there's always ways that it's going to go wrong. There are things that happen during the course of that project or things that you do that utterly destroy the progress of the project. And today we're going to talk about 3 of the most common things that I've seen and that I've experienced when I'm working on projects, whether they be making games or making apps or writing newsletter posts or any of the other random things that I happen to try to do. And I'll also go into how you can avoid these things in ways that I've found that are useful for avoiding these things. If you're into that kind of thing, hang around and we'll give you a couple ways to get you unstuck. My name's Kyle. I do videos like this every week here on the YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe, feel free to tune in. Some of the content's going to change a little bit as I'm in the progress of figuring out what I'm going to do after I move away from making games and into other things. Enough of that for now, though. Let's jump in and talk about you and how we can get you unstuck on your projects and make sure you can finish them. Number 1, and this is something that I've seen totally derail projects, both at companies I've worked for, my own projects, and I've even talked about it before a little bit, and that is feature creep. Feature creep, for those of you that don't know, is what happens when you have a scope for a project. Maybe you've planned out your game and you just keep adding more stuff to it as you get more feedback, as you have different ideas about where you want that to go, and that thing just goes on and on and on and on until, well, you never actually finish it. It's one of those things where, especially if it's your first time doing this or it's your first time working on something, you feel really attached to that thing and you want it to be the best it can be, and so you want to address every single piece of feedback, and that's really not feasible. You will never do that. In fact, you'll get stuck in a loop doing that forever. So how do you fix this? How do you avoid this situation of feature creep that just lasts forever and you never ship? You lock in the features for your project. You decide these are the things that I'm going to ship with right now. So if it's a game, that goes to your game design document. You decide in your game design document and commit to these are the features of the game. These are the mechanics that are going to be in the game. If it's an app, then you can do this iteratively, of course. You can lock in a certain set of features for a version of your app, ship only those features, and of course get feedback on both of those. You want to be flexible but firm on this, so be firm to things that are totally out of scope and decide what is totally out of scope, but still leave time to flex for things that you may not have thought of, things that may not be working. Example of that, since a lot of you came here from watching my game dev videos, let's think about a 4X strategy game. Everyone's favorite genre, right? Or at least it's one of mine. What if you wanted to add fishing to Crusader Kings 3, which, I don't know, maybe Paradox will do it. Or we'll have interstellar fishing in Solaris. That's probably feature creep. That's probably not going to help you sell more of that game. That's probably maybe not going to make that game more appealing to players, and it's going to feel a little awkward. If you want to make Fishing Crusaders 1, cool, maybe. If you do, I might try it, let me know. The lesson there, be firm with what you commit to, be firm with what your plan is for the project, what your plan is for the game, what your plan is for the app. Stick to those features, but bring in other information and be willing to flex if you have enough information that says, this is probably a good thing that would help me increase sales or that would help people have a better time playing the game. Okay, this next one, number 2, and I've seen this one a ton too in a ton of different places. There is no deadline. When there is no deadline for something, it's never going to end. It will go on and on and on because you'll continue adding things to it, just like with feature creep. The deadline really helps you nail when this thing is going to ship and at least talk about when you're going to stop or change direction. It also helps you as the person working on this to apply a little pressure to yourself because, believe it or not, most humans work better under pressure. Just like before, how do we fix this? Well, the obvious one is set a deadline, but don't just set a deadline. Announce that deadline to people. Tell people when you're going to ship your game. Say the quarter when it's going to ship. Say the month when it's going to ship. I know a lot of people like to be a little mysterious about the release date for their game, and especially a long time out, you really don't know. You have to guess on Steam when you enter it, and it's just kind of like, whatever, Steam. Sure, March 27th, 2027. I obviously know that. But, oh well. The good thing is you can use that date internally, and you very much should use that date internally to motivate you and to apply pressure to yourself so that you finish that game and you move forward with it. For apps, it's a little bit different because a lot of these things will stay around for a long time, and you can still use deadlines. You should use a deadline for something like your sales target. You can use a deadline for when you're going to have an MVP out. MVP is a really dangerous word that maybe I'll talk about at some other point in time, but let's just say it's the first version of your product, kind of. Regardless of if this is long-term or short-term, having that deadline and having a deadline ideally that's closer than you would like it to be is going to apply pressure to you and get you working on that thing and avoid the project just taking forever. Number 3, last one, overworking instead of shipping. Tons of people do this. And they go in and they work on their project and they make it the most beautiful thing ever, or whatever they want to say or whatever they want to tell themselves. And I've done this a ton too. It's when you spend so much time working on whatever it is you're doing and perfecting every last bit of it, instead of actually shipping it and getting it out into the world. You can ship that thing way sooner than you think you can, and it really doesn't have to be perfect in every way, shape, and form. You just need it to be good enough. So when you're making games, optimization is a big deal, and you can be tempted to optimize, well, everything, and a lot of people do, but I have a question for you. Is that optimization really going to be worth anything if you never ship? No. I know how tempting it is to do this. I was a software engineer for a long time. I've been writing code for a long time. And I know it's kind of painful when someone tells you not to make your little baby perfect, but you need to get it out in the world. You need to ship that thing. And that's going to help you a whole lot. And it's going to help you realize what's important when it comes to building a product versus what's something you probably could have ignored. Okay, so how do we keep ourselves from doing this? That's where prioritization comes in. And there's a lot of different ways to prioritize things. I'll maybe make another video to talk about prioritization, but for now, let's just say that if you've lined up all the tasks that you want to do over the next month, say, which you should be doing, by the way, and you go through those tasks and you say, these are things that must happen. These things must be shipped, as opposed to things that maybe should be, or that you really don't need to do at all. You can do it any time. Focus only on those things that you must do. You don't need to do that tiny little optimization if you're in the first 2 months of your game. It probably doesn't matter. You need to get it out there, get it into hands of players so they can play it and give you feedback on it. And you can take that back into your project to, well, address the problems they actually care about. Don't get too wound up about this and spend too much time deciding what must be in the project and what must not. Just pick some that you think are important at the time that you must have and do those and work on those. These all should go in your task tracking tools, whatever they may be. Pretty much any decent task tracking tool is going to have an ability for you to do this. And if you're doing it in Obsidian or something, well, you can just write it. You may find over the course of that project that some of those things that you decided you must have shift a little bit, and maybe you don't need to. You may also find that things that you thought were important or things that you thought should go in the game are things that don't matter at all, and they actually don't go into the project. And that's totally normal. It's part of this whole process. You make an educated guess about it, and you learn from seeing how people interact with it, and you learn from things that you're doing to improve your understanding about the project, improve the product itself, and keep moving forward so you can, again, ship that thing. A little fun thing for today, I want to hear about your unfinished projects. What unfinished projects do you have lingering around on your shelf of unfinished projects? Leave them down in the comments, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.